Rays assistant hitting coach, our guy Brady North, Tampa Bay Rays. What's going on, brother? How are you?
What's up, Jay? How we doing, man?
I'm good, man. I like that hat. What is that hat from?
That's Link Soul, man. It's
Nice,
a
dude.
good company out of Southern California. It's
I like.
awesome. Lot of us wear it in the clubhouse.
I love it. Brady North, our guy. What is it like first day off after the season starts?
It's good, man. It's good. We got to go to the pool today with the boys. We fly out this afternoon, so it was good to be home for the morning.
I hear you, man. What is it like to see? And I know you guys have probably seen it, but to see those pictures of the Trop, man, it's like it's still so surreal, man. I mean, you and I, we've been there for opening day for so many years, and to see those pictures, it's kind of wild, isn't it?
It was crazy, man. During spring, I had to go down or had to go up to go through the cage and see what we wanted to bring from
Mhm.
the Trop to Steinbrenner, and just being there felt eerie, man. It was like a little emotional seeing that in that state, something you're used to kind of being like, even growing up here, right? Like
Mhm.
that's a staple. You're driving down 275, you see the Trop, but being inside of it was definitely eerie.
Yeah, I bet, man. So how has that been how has that adjustment been for the team as a whole, as for the hitters, the pitchers, for everybody? Just it's a new home, man. It's a new home. It's working outside. Like, how do you think the guys have been able to handle that whole thing?
The guys have been great, man. They really have.
Mhm.
Like, credit to them, just taking it in stride. And we're being a little creative how we're doing our pregame work, splitting up fields, having guys sit on one field just to get inside sooner. Um, we're very fortunate the facilities at GSM are amazing. So that's made it a lot easier as well. But the guys have been great. Like, I haven't heard a complaint. So that's always good.
Is there a conversation about what is going to happen in the summer when it gets when it gets hot as heck? Do you like, especially that pregame stuff, when you have a normal 7 o'clock start and you're out there at 3, 4 o'clock and you're baking? Is there an idea of like, hey, we got to hydrate more, we got to make sure that we're not spending as much time outside? Is that built into the plan for the season, or do you just kind of take it as you go?
I think it's definitely built in. Something that we've already made the adjustment is shorts are allowed now outside. Where
Okay.
before that's just something you didn't see. Everyone's kind of in pants, but now players are driving like the decision to wear shorts outside for batting practice and stuff. So there's one adjustment, but there's definitely a plan in place those middle months where it's going to get really, really hot, as we know. But it's going to be mostly player driven how they're feeling and make
I
those
love it.
adjustments from there.
Cashy gonna still throw BP?
Yeah, we're trying to get them out there.
So
So
is he
we're doing.
done? Is he not throwing BP anymore?
No, he is. He is.
Okay, okay.
We're doing a lot of mixed stuff. So he's working on a slider because he wants to get the guys out. He doesn't like getting hit. So
I love that. He's working on a ZRA when everybody else is trying to hit.
yeah,
Let's talk about the start of the season, man. What was opening day like to be there? It's baseball outside, and you know this. It's a different animal, and it's the first of it's a unique season, man. It's nothing. There's never going to be another one quite like this one. What was opening day like that against Colorado?
it was really cool, man. We were actually you could feel the energy, like you said. It's just different. Outside baseball is different. It was a lot different for us, especially just looking up and seeing a much more intimate setting with the fans right there on top of you. Personally being from Tampa, like being able to look out, like I saw like 3 or 4 people that I'd never seen at a game before. I'm like, hey, hey.
Yeah.
So just that was a cool aspect of it. But we felt the effects right away though. Opening day, Aranda's ball to right was like a 90% homer. Wind brought it back.
Wow.
Bilau's ball to center game 2 was like a 90% homer. So we felt the effects pretty early, kind of like, all right, those are homers in the Trop, but we'll deal with it. So
Yeah, you got to adjust, man. You got
no
to
doubt.
adjust. One guy that's adjusted, I mean, Mangum, Jake freaking Mangum. Like, this guy has taken the freaking baseball world by storm. What is your first memory of meeting him, working with him, and just tell us, like, what is this guy like? What is it like to be able to see a dude like that just go on an absolute heater over the first 6 games?
I mean, you cheer for a guy like that, right? Those are the things that you see those stories. Guy, I think he has like 6 years, 7 years in the minor leagues, just battling. He's the SEC hits king. We call him the mayor because he's just, the personality is just so big, and he could talk to anyone and make you feel like you've known him for years. So you pull for him. Seeing what he's doing has been very, very special, and I think we've all really enjoyed it.
How about Misner, man? He hits that walk off in the opening day. Like, you could not have written a better script than having that guy hit the home run and to be able to end that game on a high note.
That was awesome, man, because, his short stint last year with us up in the big leagues was, he had some tough matchups. I think he debuted against Hader, so he didn't get an easy introduction to the major leagues. But, credit to him. He went into the offseason, made a ton of adjustments, and that was really, really cool to see. Get his first homer as a walk-off on opening day. That was awesome.
Tell me about Junior Caminero. I know we spoke about him last year. You were able to see firsthand what he was able to do in the, I say off season, but there ain't no off season for that guy. But just what's the biggest adjustment? What's the biggest development in his game? And what have you seen from him so far here in the 2025 season?
I think physically he's made a ton of adjustments. He looks really good physically. He's in really good shape. I'm really excited for the season he's about to put together. There's a superstar in there. So exciting all around, defensively, offensively. He's been very fun to watch.
Is he a guy where, I mean, how do you approach a guy like that, being one of the hitting coaches there? He's got so much God-giving talent, and you and I have spoken about this a lot over the years, where you kind of just sit there and like, all right, well, what do you want? What can I help? Can I toss? Can I give you feedback? Like, what kind of guy is Junior Caminero? Is he a guy that wants a lot of information? Is he kind of a guy that it's a little bit more hands off? Like, how does that whole thing work?
It's a pretty good combo. I wouldn't say he wants a lot of information. He wants enough information to have himself prepared for that at bat throughout the game in terms of information like that. When it comes to his swing, he's very feel based. We're more like rumble strips for guys like that, where like he gets a little off course, we just kind of direct him back onto attention. We actually try to control his effort a lot. When you hit the ball 115 or 108 off front toss, you got to regulate it a little bit. Like, hey, calm down. We don't need full max.
How do you do that, Brady? Like, how do you reel a guy like that back in? Because you don't want to harness, right? He's like a racehorse, right? You don't want to harness the greatness there, but like, what's the mindset of that? What's the thought process there? And how do you go about discussing that with him, realizing that, like, hey, you can't swing out of your, is that what it is? Like, you can't swing out of your shoes every at bat? How does that go about?
It's more not even so much during the game. It's going to be more during his work. Like, hey, you don't have to touch top speed right now. Like, treat it as a progression. Chad and I have really tried to hone him in on that. Like, hey, these early flips work at 50, 60%, and then let intensity and adrenaline naturally rev your engine up for you. Because when the game starts, man, these guys, the adrenaline's pumping. They're ready to go. So you got to just tame him into where all his work is done at very low intensity. So when he gets to that top intensity, he's not over revving the engine.
Do you see that, maybe not from him, but from other guys? Like, how do you work with a guy where it's like everything you do in the cage, everything you did in the minors, you're like, oh, this guy's about to go off. This guy's about to do his thing. And then in the game, it just doesn't translate. Is that kind of like the $1 million question? Like, because we know obviously there's a guy throwing a ball, he's trying to get him out. It's not like he's hitting off a tee, right? But what's the, I guess, way to go about something like that conversation with a guy where it's like, damn, man, you're doing everything right. You just got to focus on A, B, and C, and then everything will happen for you.
I mean, it happens all the time, right? I think the reminding part, like you just said, like, hey, you're swinging good pitches, you're taking the balls, you've had some unlucky outcomes. Reminding guys of that. I think Chad and I's thing has been the game is going to teach us. What we do in the cage is important, but the speed of the real game is what we're looking at. Like, you're swinging, like you just said, off the tee. Like Chad, I remember my first year, Chad saying this. He's like, when we start playing off the tee, I'll talk to you about your tee swing. And it made a lot of sense to me. Like, yeah, you know what? Because I've coached some tee swings before, like,
right.
And you're right. Like, it doesn't matter. What you're doing off the tee doesn't matter if it doesn't translate. So we pay attention to those game live swings. What's the intensity like there? Are things breaking down? Are they swinging at the right pitches? That's where we go to really get our gauge of where this guy's at.
So what are you focusing on then for the tee work and then the front flips? Is that just mechanical stuff then overall?
So it's going to be more like that intensity. Are you just moving under control? Like, or are you just trying to hit this ball as hard as you can on a ball that's not moving? Because if you're doing that, we're working on the wrong stuff.
What about a guy like Yandy? What kind of guy is he like when he's sitting there? Because he's got such a good opposite field approach. And, I know he's kind of working through things right now, but what's his mindset when he's in there working in the cage and trying to improve on his swing?
He loves to stabilize his lower half. When that lower half's open, his hands are just working. He's throwing the barrel out front. That's kind of his main focus is. His cage work is so fun to watch because it's like he doesn't mishit it. You're like,
Mhm.
how are you not? This ball's moving. Manny's throwing nasty sinkers, and you're all over the barrel. Sometimes with him, it's like his timing's everything. We're watching
Mhm.
his timing. When he's on time, I don't think there's a better hitter out there.
So when you look at a guy like that struggle early on, is it kind of on your aspect of like, hey, it's gonna come, right? Is it one of those things where you look at and you're just like, hey, man, there's no reason to, do you have to do a little bit of that of kind of like, all right, let's settle it down. You're putting in the right work. Eventually, it's gonna kind of coincide and work together.
Yandy's been around. He knows, and he knows
Yeah.
that he's on the barrel. Is there going to be
Mhm.
some frustration because hits aren't there? Sure, that's all of us. We all want success, but Yandy's been around the block. Guys won a batting title. He
Yeah.
knows the ups and downs, and even what he did last year. How he had that. I want to say it was like a month and a half, 2 months really bad, and ended up hitting what 280.
It's amazing.
It like yeah, you don't see that. So
Mhm.
there's no worry or panic from Yandy at all, or any of us about Yandy.
What is the game plan for a day like yesterday when you know you're going against Paul Skenes? He's one of the most popular pitchers of the game. Um, is there a focus on kind of limiting it down and blocking out all that outside noise because you know what his stuff is like and try not to make too much of what his stuff is? Do you put even, I don't want to say more pressure, but do you put more focus on like, hey, you may only get one pitch, you try to get him early? Like, what's the mindset as a group? Because we know what this guy can do. How do you go into a game like yesterday knowing what you're going up against?
Well, Paul Skenes is really, really good. I mean,
Mhm.
it's really impressive to watch in person. For us, it was just reminding them one, he is a human still, and you guys are major leaguers too. Like we got a shot. We have no chance against this guy. You
Right.
guys are really good. That's a big reminder. But yeah, I think we yesterday were just making sure the at bats were going to be competitive. That he wasn't just going to get us out on 3 pitches and try to work some counts and make sure if he did get ahead, we stayed in there. We just didn't give it away, which you saw us have. I think we had multiple 9 pitch at bats, 8 pitch at bats,
Yeah.
which a couple of them were like 0-2 to 9 pitches. To
Mhm.
do that against Paul Skenes alone, regardless of the outcome, is really that's a victory. That's a really like well fought at bat. So we really harped on that. Like we saw those at bats, like we made sure those guys knew, hey, that's a hell of a job.
That's kinda hard for people that aren't in the baseball world to understand, right? Like, they
Yeah,
don't
no,
like, running up the pitch count is not something that people
yeah,
outside of baseball, that's when you say that's a victory, like, "What do you mean it's a victory? You got out?" It's like, man, you don't know the dividends that pays later on, like, you just don't know if you
right.
get him out after 6, you get him out after 7, to prevent him from going all 9. I'm with you, man.
Or just
Looking
putting
at
stress on that inning, right? Like you're putting
Yeah.
stress on that inning where like that inning alone, instead of 15 pitches, it was 27. Like
Mhm.
there's power in that. Where he's forced to now execute 27 times instead of 15. So, and I thought our guys did a pretty good job of having tough at bats against arguably probably the best pitcher in the game right now.
No doubt about it. Does the approach change for a day game like that in the middle of the week?
Um, I
Does the
think a lot of
timing
times it's buddy like going off night game to that. It's just more like, hey, get what you need, make sure you're ready to play.
Right, right.
There's not a ton of pregame work. There's just more taking exactly what they need.
Is out of all the time since you've been with the big club, is Skeens the guy with the best stuff that you've seen
There's a
from a
lot of good
starter?
stuff. There's
I
a lot
know.
of good stuff out there. I would say at this age, like how young he is and how the command is very impressive. How he locates. I mean, yesterday he was striking that splitter, splinker thing, whatever you want to call it, at 94. Like,
Yeah, he threw
he,
one, I think it was 96 for a called strike three, and I go, come on, dude. Come on.
yeah,
The
he
thing's got
fell
a
behind
little
3-0 to I think Aranda and maybe Caballero. He fell
Mhm.
behind 3-0 and got all the way back with that to strike him out. And I just was like, that's you don't see that.
The ability to throw that hard with a little bit of a hump to it is just and the ride that he has on this four seam. Like you look
Yeah,
at some of those, you're like, oh, that's not that pitch, and you're like, yeah, it is. He just throws
yeah,
that freaking hard.
yeah.
What is the thought process? Because a lot of people talk about the analytics. Big topic of conversation is Brandon Lau coming out yesterday. I mean, how do you guys balance the analytics when it comes to pitcher hitter matchups, and how does Kashi kind of use that, but also have feel and use his gut, right? Because obviously you guys are so analytically driven. It's the way you guys can compete. By not you're not going to go out there and buy a guy that's batting 300 with
Mhm.
45 home runs and 140 RBIs. You guys have to do it in a different way. But how do you kind of balance that out as a group of understanding and also communicating with the players. Like at times we're going to be analytics, sometimes we're going to use, the kind of the feel for the game. What's that conversation like?
Well, I think Chad and I, what we do with all of our guys, and I may have mentioned some in the past, is like as soon as you become a Ray, we say you're not starting today, but you are playing. Like you will play today, despite not being in the starting lineup. Like it's going to happen. Like we get ahead of that with the guys. Cashy is probably the most balanced. Like the players know if he's doing it because he truly believes this is going to give us the best chance to win, and our players are fully invested in that mindset.
Right.
If this gives us the best chance to win, we are willing to do it. Even if it doesn't look like it should to the uneducated eye on it. Yeah. Our players are super invested on the decisions we're making. And I think Cashy does a great job, one, explaining it to him and using, like you said, his gut and the information to make the best decision for us to win.
What was it like to see all of those young guys? Obviously you guys are focused one day at a time. You can't get too far ahead of yourselves, but for spring training and to see Carson Williams and to see all these different guys, and you're like, and you were in the minor league system, right? Like, what is it like to know, like, hey, I'm happy with the team we got, but it's hard not to think like, man, when that guy gets up here, right? It's exciting because, not every team out there has a great farm system. What was that like working with those young guys, and how exciting will it be when they finally get up with the big league and they're full time?
It's going to be exciting, but I'll tell you, credit to our minor league group. I mean, those the coordinators, the coaches down there, those guys being up around the major league group, they really showed how prepared they are and ready, what they've learned, how they digest the information. That's something that's really opened my eyes, is the next wave of players, they know the information probably better than some of the coaches out there, because they've come up in that generation of like using information to prepare, to design their practice environment. So if we were watching these, 20, 21-year-old guys saying, hey, I want this because we're facing this guy. And you're like, when I was 20, I was thinking about making sure I'm on the field on time. This guy's over here talking about this guy's pitch shape. And I'm like, wow, that's impressive. So I think from that standpoint, that was really awesome to see, for those young guys to be very mature, and I want to say almost advanced mindset already, that you see at the major league level.
What about Chandler Simpson? I mean, this is a guy straight out of a video game. Listen, I mean, I don't know if you're necessary. Like, he's just an old school, put the ball in play and run. And it's when you're a guy that's watching that and just knowing that he is striking fear in the pitching and the defense, knowing if they don't field this ball cleanly, he's going to be on first, and there's probably a good chance he'll be on second and third if they don't do a great job of holding him on. What was that phenom like to watch in spring training?
Really fun, man. The most impressive one was the third baseman was like pulled up in, he hits it right at him, and he's like gliding it. He's not even running. And it was like bang, bang. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he was jogging.
And sometimes the outs are more impressive than the safe calls, right?
We were like, dude, you can run, right? You would have been safe. He's like, oh, I thought he was going to get rid of it quicker. We were like, wow, that was impressive. Like, and he was just like cruising. It was like boom, boom at first base. But he was really fun, man. He did a couple of things in the cage where he like crept up on the machine. We call it walking the dog.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was close, and he was all fired up for just touching the ball, and it was awesome. Like, man, all right, he's a true competitor. Like, that guy's playing to win. So yeah, he's going to be fun to watch for sure.
I asked this, and you said about that, and I know Yandy was catching a little heat about this yesterday, but I don't think it's a much of a big deal at all. I actually asked Cashy this years ago about guys not running every ground ball hard to first base, right? Because he said to me, he goes, Jay, 99.7% of the time, these are big league players. They're going to make the play. If we have a guy busting it down the line on a routine ground ball in June and he tears his hammy and he's out for 4 months, like, that doesn't do us any well. How do you, and it's hard because I know you and I know your dad and you want to bust it down the line, right? But playing 25, 35 games at Gaither High ain't the same as playing $162 in the big league. So I think that's pretty much how do you balance that though, right? How do you balance the, like, you want guys to work hard, you want guys to leave it all on the field, but you also have to kind of understand where those where those spots are, right?
Oh, I just go to Cashie's point there, right? Like
Mhm.
that was Adam Frazier, I think, playing second there. He makes that play,
Yeah,
and he
he's
still
amazing.
made it.
Mhm.
Yeah, he makes that play 99 out of 100 times. We need Yandy for 162, right? Like I want his bat. Yandy's not going to win many games using his legs, like. I think it's a different story maybe if it's say a Chandler Simpson type situation where every play is bang bang, but no one even batted an eye at it, man. I know optically it looks bad, and like I get that. I'm not gonna say it doesn't, but Yandy's not there to do that. Yandy's there to hit and drive runs in.
What two more things before I let you go. What's kind of the mindset as you guys head to Texas? We know it at times a place like this can be a little bit of a bandbox here, right? Where sometimes you just start looking and there's home runs flying everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Offensively, how do you keep the guys in check to go like, hey, let's not try to swing for that. Let's try to just kind of stay with our game plan here.
I think our guys are really good with that.
Yeah.
I think our
No,
guys
no
actually,
discussion needed for that.
yeah, like we're not even probably gonna mention that.
So
For
what
us,
is
it's
it?
just gonna.
What is the mindset that when you go on a road like this first time?
I think one just being ready, right? It's first road trip. I think it's
Mhm.
really nice that our first road trip's coming on off day. Guys are gonna be able
Right.
to get in, have a nice dinner, go to sleep. I think that's nice where it's not like we left the city getting in late
Right.
and all that. So I think that's gonna help in general. We're just gonna treat it like any other day, man. Just get ready to play and do what you got to do.
Last thing, how's the family doing? How's mom, dad, your wife, your
Everybody's
sister,
good,
the
man.
kids, all the kids, the North
Everybody's
family?
good.
How many
Everybody's good, man.
how many road trips are the little ones? How many
They'll be on
they
something. They'll get all 30 this year. I think they'll get all
yeah?
30. Yeah, they'll get all. Yeah,
Wow. I was talking to
yeah.
your mom the other day. Gaither was at Jefferson, and I was just saying about how your two boys, Hanley and Kenley, Hanley and Kenley, I feel like they've traveled to more places than I have in my damn near
They've
40
traveled.
years of
We've
living.
been fortunate, man. The last 4 or 5 years, the game has taken us places to be able to travel. So we're very, very grateful for those opportunities.
You got that. And I'm grateful for you, my man. Thank you so much. Brady North,
Of course,
assistant
man.
hitting coach for the Rays. Safe travels, my man. Keep up the great work. Tell everybody in the fam I said hello, and we'll do this again soon. Thanks, partner.
I will, man. Talk to you soon.
All right, buddy.